What's your official job title?
My official job title is audio engineer.
Okay. What exactly do you do?
Well, I record music. So if a band comes in and wants to make a record, I help them do that. So it starts with setting up microphones and recording them, playing multiple times, depending on how you want to record them. But that's what I do mostly, and that involves like a lot of gadgets, a lot of pushing knobs and pushing microphones and stuff like that. That's what I do.
So why did you choose this career?
I chose this career because it was a very exciting field when I was younger. I saw it. I went to a school with your uncle and played in a band there with him, and we were both in a class that was how to be musicians in a studio. And so we were in a band playing, and I got to see all these other students recording us, and I went, that sounds like a fun thing to do. And so then I looked into classes at that school, and it was honest, and they had a whole program, and I took it, and I just fell in love with it.
What would you say one of your biggest accomplishments has been?
Well, one of my biggest was I built a studio with a friend of mine that I went to school with. We met in school, and it's in Pittsburgh. It's still there. We rented out a warehouse, and we built these rooms inside of it, and we were very successful for a number of years. And in fact, I've moved on to run this studio, and my friend Willie has moved on to run a studio out in San Francisco, and now we have two younger guys that have moved in and operate the place, and it's packed every day. Every day is booked, and it's been very successful. So that's a really big thing.
How many bands or artists have you produced?
Quite a few. There's a lot. I don't know off the top of my head, but I started, I guess about 18 years ago. And when our studio started to get busy, I would do, I guess, a couple bands a month, sometimes 3. So, and then I took a break from that place and worked out here. So there's been quite a few. I don't know, it's been a lot.
What's a favorite memory of yours from throughout your career?
A favorite memory? One recently, actually. So, first, another side of my job as I travel with the band that I work for, and I got to go to the Grammys, and I went to, and I won a Grammy Award, and so I got to get a trophy, and I got to get my picture taken and walk down the red carpet and do all that stuff, and that was a really good feeling. I never ever in my life thought I'd ever get to do that, and that was pretty fun.
Is it more common for an audio engineer or producer to be hired for a one-time job or a long-term job?
One-time job. So typically, engineers are what's known as like a freelance sort of person. They're sort of out there working for themselves. That's typically how it works. And what that means is, your band, you might come to me and I would record you. I could also go record someone else and this sort of thing. And that usually requires some sort of studio to work out of. I know some guys though that travel between studios and they go wherever they can get in, and that's common as well. I've, however, found myself in a really odd position where I work for one band right now, and I'm now able to work with more bands because they own the studio and I'm sort of running it now. So when I'm not working with them, I'll work with other people. So it's very common to see engineers work with much.
Was there anyone specific who inspired you to do this career? Or
I don't think any one person inspired me. I sort of just fell in love with all of it, and I just sort of got into it. I found a lot of people as I learned about it that were pretty inspiring. So there's a lot of famous people like Glenn Jones. There's all these engineer people that I could rattle off to. You might not know who they are, but because engineers are usually the guys behind the scenes. They're not the bands really. But I found a lot of inspiration along the way for sure. But what got me into it, I think, was just myself being kind of geeky with the technology stuff.
What's one of the challenges you've had to overcome?
I think one challenge for me was opening up my eyes to stuff and allowing myself to learn more things. A lot of times you can get stuck in your own ways, right? You think you know what you're doing, and you think you know what's right, and you have to sometimes, you have to learn from other people. You have to open, what's the word? You have to be open to new things. And that's been a challenge I've come across a couple times.
What's your least favorite and favorite part of this job?
Least favorite part. When I was younger, I would say I loved working all night, but now the hours are starting to get to me. I'm getting old. So late nights are, and those long hours are starting to not be so fun. It used to be we would start recording at noon and we'd go home at 3 or 4 in the morning because we were just working our butts off, you know, and now I get tired early. So I think along with the long hours, something else I'm sort of found myself not necessarily liking are maybe just that. Really. The part I love though is listening to a project when it's finally done. Finally you finish a mix and everyone loves it, everyone's happy with it, and everyone's high-fiving one another. That's the fun part.
I talked to another audio engineer and I heard that if this industry is a dying industry, what's your opinion on that?
It's can be seen as dying, and sometimes I feel like it is, but I think it's really changing. There's a whole new sort of change that's happening. So we all love music, and there'll always be music, and I just think at times people are seeing it differently. So when I grew up, that's all that mattered to me. I was music nut. That's all I wanted to listen to. And I had posters on my wall and stuff, you know. And I think as music becomes, there's so much of it today, and it's so easily accessible that I don't think people are that intrigued by it or find it that important because there's so much of it. That's my take on it. And I think that feeds into something that just means that there's more engineers, there's more bands, there's more producers, there's more studios. There's more studios in people's bedrooms. So, you know, I could sit in front of my computer and basically write a song and record it right there. So you're finding that that's happening more. And the job that I have on the professional level that I work at, there's fewer of people myself sort of surviving now because there's not that big demand for people coming to a big studio or pay someone a lot of money when they can do it on their own. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, what are some of the best personality traits for this career?
Patience, and to be a good listener, and you have to know when to give your opinion and when not to give your opinion. To be a good listener.
Is there a certain level of education that's required for this job, or is it just kind of general knowledge or learning from experiences?
A lot of it is learning from experiences, but there is a couple things that you should know. Like, if you go and you work as a lawyer, you have to take the bar exam. There's a particular test you have to take. There's nothing like that necessarily for audio engineering, but there is a lot of stuff you want to know because you want to know some basics of things, and a lot of that kind of is how sound works. And so that's a little bit of, you know, there's some science in there, there's some physics. It helps to know that, and then it also helps to sort of learn about equipment. So if you know how to operate the console over there, you're going to get hired a little easier. You know, you'll get used more because you know how to operate that sort of stuff. And unfortunately, there's no like one book. You know, you have to sort of, you can go to a school where they teach that sort of stuff and learn about it. And then the most important thing is actually just sitting and doing it, and you learn more from doing it. You know, when you go to take your driver's lesson someday, when you get a license, you're going to read about how to drive a car, but you won't know till you really do it. Then you go, oh, I get this. It'll make sense what you're doing. That's sort of how it is with this. Once you do it, then you learn more.
So in my class, we've been talking a lot about passion and being compassionate for certain careers, and how you have to have inspiration to do something that you truly love. So what inspires you to be an audio engineer? Like, is it your real passion, or is it just because that was a career open at the time?
It was my passion. And it's cool that you guys are learning that, because that actually sort of fueled my decision to do this. It was something I was so interested in that I couldn't stop learning about it. And I used to get these books on my own. When I was in high school and someone was trying to teach me math, I didn't want to even look at my books. I didn't care about it because it wasn't anything I was interested in. In my music classes, I would spend all day in the music room playing music. And so your passion sort of start to dictate things. And as I figured out learning about engineering, I ended up falling in love with it. And that helped me devote all my time to it. And then there was this point where I had this decision to make. I was always having a day job to sort of support what I wanted to do, and work in the evenings, recording. And it came a time where I had this opportunity to work full time, and I had to make this decision of, well, I'm going to get rid of my day job and do what I love. Can I actually do this as a career? It took me a long time to really say and admit to myself that this was my career, because it just seemed like fun to me. It felt unfair to go, well, I do this and this is my job, because other people I know and friends have jobs they don't like, but I love mine. And so the passion and that inspiration is fully 100% the reason why I'm doing it. That's very, very important for me.
So lastly, do you have any advice for any aspiring audio engineers?
Yeah. Listen to records. Listen to lots of them, and try to start thinking about how those were recorded. How are those sounds created? Like, is that electric guitar? Is that an acoustic guitar? Is that a big bass drum or a small bass drum? Start to figure out that stuff, and then go, how did they make that sound? Is that a microphone that's right up on a speaker, or is it a microphone that's in the other room picking up that speaker? These are all things that we sort of have to deal with when we record and all that sort of thing. So it'd be best to start listening to music and listening to things and say, why do I like this one over this? And also not be afraid to listen to other kinds of music. Venture out. Maybe listen to stuff your parents listen to. You might not like it, but you should listen to it, and just for the sake of hearing it.